Welcome to Washington East to West Sports. This is episode 31. I am Matt Beatty, joined alongside, as usual, by Sean Beatty and Kevin Ardall. You all can get involved in the show out there. Go ahead and tweet us. I am at Beatty_Matt. Sean is at Sean_Beatty. Kev is at Kev's Believes. The first team believes me in a 3. Follow us on YouTube. Subscribe. Smash that subscribe button. Give us some comments. Tell us what you think of the show. Follow our page on the Eli Network. Gentlemen, let's start off with a little bit of some lighter topics before we get into some Mariners and some Seahawks. So I don't know if you all saw the jersey reveal by the Seattle Sounders. They did a dedication to Jimi Hendrix, and this is the Jimi Hendrix Experience kit that they made for, I'm not sure how many games are going to be wearing it this season, but this is the jersey they unveiled. What do you guys think of it? And are you guys big Jimi Hendrix fans? Sean, I'm going to start with you.
I went for Halloween as Jimi Hendrix one time. So yeah, I love Jimi Hendrix. I think the reveal actually is super cool. The jersey itself is pretty cool, but the reveal little video they did was like the coolest thing ever, how they incorporated music to it and everything like that. So I love it. And it's a Seattle thing. So I think I'm surprised that cities don't do this more often, to be honest.
Kevin, what'd you think of it?
Yeah. I like Jimi Hendrix music. I'm not going to say like I'm a diehard fan, but of course, if Jimi Hendrix comes on, I'm going to rock out to it. Yeah, the black and purple with meshes very well, even though it's not Sounders colors, obviously, but it still looks really good the way that they designed it. There's not one color that kind of outweighs the other. They just mesh well together and with the way they designed it. And I thought it looked pretty sweet. So.
Yeah, it looks very Purple Haze-ish in my book. Love the jersey. I think I want to try and pick one up if I do make it out to a Sounders game. Hopefully get to that team store, maybe get like a discount or something. But that is a very sweet jersey. And my favorite Jimi Hendrix song is Hey Joe. I know it's maybe not the most popular song, but that is my favorite of the Jimi Hendrix songs. Also, The Wind Cries Mary is a close second, but those would be my top 2 Jimi Hendrix songs. So I would say this is a solid move by the Seattle Sounders. I mean, incorporating some music and some history from the town into their jerseys, like no brainer there, no brainer. So very, very much like the jerseys, and hope to pick one up at some point soon. So let's move on to the NCAA tournament really quick just to talk about it. So the Gonzaga Bulldogs have just been rolling through the tournament, haven't won a game by less than double digits so far. They take on USC number 6 tomorrow at 4:15 for a shot in the Final Four. Have you guys been paying attention, and how dominant do the Zags look in your guys' opinion? Kevin, I'm going to throw it to you first.
Yeah, I mean, they've just been continuing on rolling. I haven't really gotten to watch any of the games fully, just a little bit of highlights here and there, but I've been liking what I've seen. Seeing more Zags fans pop out. And I say that just because you just really hardly ever see somebody rocking a Zags. Every now and then I see a Zags hat here in Washington, but yeah, so I hope this is the year that they kind of take it all the way, so to speak, because they've had a lot of really good teams within the last 10, 15 years, that have always, they're pretty much always there in the bracket. And a lot of people always have them going to like top 8, and stuff like that, but always kind of get defeated anywhere between Sweet 16 to top 8-ish. So I think this is the year. Let's cross our fingers.
Sean, what do you think?
They look absolutely dominant. I was looking at some advanced numbers, and they have their ELO ranking and things like that. They're one of the best teams in the last 20 years. They're just so much better than the teams they've been playing. And they played 3 of the other people in the top 3 opponents in their side, and they beat them all during the year. So they were already like the huge favorites in their bracket before it started, since they beat everybody that was any good in their bracket. That doesn't mean that they can't get upset. That's the whole point of the tournament. But a lot of people like, if the best team doesn't win the tournament, it's viewed as a choke job, and I don't view it that way, because again, like, it's, what is it, 4 or 5 games of sudden death? Like, anything can happen in one game. A guy fouls out. It's hard to win that many games in a row, and luck plays a part. So the Zags always have been talented. I think they have been talented-ish and not gotten lucky. This time they're very like clearly the most talented team, but can they avoid the bad beat or bad, bounces here and there? And right now they're just looks like no matter the luck, because they haven't played well some of the games and they're just dominating people. So I think their talent has, when we get to the Final Four, it'll start to be like, okay, they got to play a little bit closer to perfect basketball, but they're just so much better than everybody else. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, Jalen Suggs might be the top pick in the draft. You got Corey Kispert, who's probably going to be a first-round pick.
Time to
Drew Timme, he's been playing really well. So they have a lot of NBA talent, and it's just it's really weird to see like the major news networks call them mid-major. Like I understand that they play in a mid-major conference, but this program is a major program in the college basketball landscape. So the sooner the national media can kind of recognize that a little bit, because Gonzaga is not new to this stage. It's just a matter of people, saying they're mid-major, and mid-majors generally have had the reputation of not being able to compete for the most part on the national stage. But most part, Gonzaga has basically trounced any sort of narrative that you could say that mid-majors are not at all involved in the national picture. So
they're like mid-major, but they played 5 ranked opponents before the season started. Well, 4 because Baylor game got canceled because of COVID, but they were like, we're playing all ranked people, like come at us, and they dominated everybody. So like their conference schedule, they had 2 other teams go to the tournament in their own conference too. So like their conference wasn't as bad as everyone says. It's just Gonzaga was so good, and they played anybody who's willing to meet them on a court. They're like, unlike these, BYU, who's like anytime, anywhere, and then didn't meet. But I agreed with the BYU at that time. But like Gonzaga was literally like, you play us, show up, bring 5 guys, let's do the thing. And they were just running people. So they did not care who you were.
Well, I think
they're different than mid-major.
Yeah, well, I mean, Gonzaga's arrived now. Like Gonzaga will schedule, Duke, but Duke will not schedule St. Mary's, who's in the same conference. It's like they have arrived. Therefore, they will get the big games that everyone wants to see them play.
Yeah.
So
I think their conference though is getting a lot better than people think. Like St. Mary's and Pepperdine, those schools are constantly in the tournament and winning a game or two. Like these are not like, I mean, Big Ten was terrible this year in the tournament. So like people give these big conferences, and this conference has been getting better for a while. So I think people need to start paying attention.
Yeah, Oral Roberts and Loyola Chicago just kind of put the kibosh on the Big Ten. So that was pretty cool.
I mean, look, Chicago did it 2 years in a row now.
That's
like,
true.
I mean, like that's, you got to pay attention to them.
Watch out for the power of Sister Jean.
2 out of the last 3 years, whatever, COVID.
All right. Well, let us know how your bracket is doing out there. But gentlemen, let us jump into some Seattle Mariners talk here. So they have just wrapped up the spring training schedule. I'm just going to go over the last week of games real quick. So they took on Arizona 1-3-0, and they lost 6-2 to Chicago. The Cubs, they lost to the A's 8-5. They lost to the Padres 6-3. They defeated the San Francisco Giants 5-0 with Paxton getting the win there on Saturday. And then they played their final spring training game in Cactus League play, a 5-5 tie against the Cincinnati Reds. So, guys, what have you kind of seen in these this final week of games? And do you feel like the Mariners showed a lot of promise with the upcoming season? Actual games counting. So, do you think they got what they wanted out of this spring training? So, Sean, I'm going to throw it to you. What were the Mariners kind of looking for from their players in this game, and do you think they got out what they needed going into the regular season?
Yeah, I think they did. I think secretly the Mariners wanted Kellnick to go down. They could use the injury to say go down, so they got that. And he played super well in the time he was there, and so did Julio. Like they were freaking beasts. Their OPSs are over 1,000 the time, and they played a decent amount too. So it wasn't like they had 1 or 2 games playing. They both played very well. Trammell and Ty France, the Dodgers trade, they're both beasts too. Evan White, the last month of the season, was hitting again finally. And Kevin's boy, Tom Murphy, hitting again. So Cal Raleigh looked really good too. So the guys that like they were hoping to do well, I think for the most part played pretty well. The pitchers, Logan Gilbert, for the 1 start he got, looked great. So I really liked what I saw with the future pieces that they did. And again, even the guys that maybe not future, but like Ty France, who's 26, and Tom Murphy, who's 30, guys like that, they still played well. All the guys we had question marks, I feel like now it's training camp or preseason, but spring training, sorry, other sport, I'll get there eventually. They played well. they played well. I'm excited.
Kevin, what were your thoughts?
Excuse me. Yes. That. So, yeah. Not surprised that Kellnick got sent down. Tramel's still kind of going off. What's his Hanniger came down to earth a little bit. And then unfortunately with the Kyle Lewis injury, hopefully he kind of gets back there soon to kind of help solidify that outfield. Ty France is still beasting. Seager's still kind of beasting. Evan White, man, like turning that bat around. With the 2 hits that he had today, he pretty much finished, I think, 210 or 220 for spring. Let me look. I have it right here. Oh, 222, because he was at 116 or something like that at one point. He was just god awful. Pitching has looked great. Paxton has looked phenomenal, and I like that and I hope he keeps doing this, because that means we can like trade him off and go get like really good pieces. So Mariners fans need to hope that the Big Maple keeps continuing to do that, so where we can just trade it, but and go get a top 100 prospect type deal. Flexen had a good game today. Bullpens just kind of had, here and there, just bullpen, just doing bullpen stuff type of deal. So yeah, I like what I see. You got to see the young kids play. Some people surprised you, like Trammell and Ty France, and then we knew Kellnick and Julio were going to be beasts, and even after injury, Kellnick was still being a beast. So I imagine we will probably see Kellnick up here within a month or two, hopefully a month. Depends on how serious the Kyle Lewis injury is too. I think that will play a factor into it. So, yeah. The only thing that really just is kind of sad is JP Crawford right now. Like, that man needs to figure something out, because he's just not doing it at the plate. So.
Yeah, I've liked what I've seen at the plate. I think the Mariners have quite a bit of power that I wasn't necessarily expecting to see from them. They've got some bats in the lineup that can definitely swing. Like Trammell's come on quite nicely. You guys have mentioned Evan White. Mitch Haniger looks, like Mitch Haniger from before that injury. So it's really nice to see the power in this lineup. And there's not, in previous Mariners seasons, there's always been like, when you get down to the bottom of the lineup, that it's, not as potent as is, how betting lineups are set up. But generally 1 through 9, I think this lineup is pretty solid. Like you've got a good mix of right-handed, left-handed bats. You've got a good mix of power at the top, and then it kind of sprinkles down to the bottom. There's a lot of guys who can get on base. So I like what I've seen from the bats. And then the starting pitching is where it definitely shines for the most. Kevin mentioned the bullpen. Like the bullpen I think will mostly be a work in progress throughout the season. But the starting pitching, like you guys mentioned, Paxton has looked good. Marco just, keeps being consistent. Flexen has, played pretty well and earned himself a spot, which we'll talk about and then we'll talk about the rotation here in a little bit. And then Justin Dunn earned that 6th rotation spot. So hopefully he can kind of show up a little bit and, keep that starting rotation solid, because, Gonzalez, Paxton, Flexen, Sheffield, Kikuchi, Dunn. I think that's a pretty solid starting 6 right there. I'm not sure how many teams in the AL West can really match up to that. Houston does have a couple of really good arms, but for the most part, I don't know if many starting pitching rotations are as deep as the Mariners. Now, obviously, I do have a little bit of bias because I follow the Mariners more closely than most teams, but I think that their lineup could be put up against a lot in the American League and stand pretty well. It's just a matter of if that bullpen can kind of hold up towards the end of the games in the 6th, 7th, 8th, and then close in the 9th. So I like the starting pitching rotation. I do want to talk about Jared Kellnick and Julio Rodriguez now. Julio's not so much a surprise to me of him being sent down. He's just a little bit younger. Kellnick, I thought definitely played his way on to the team. Julio had a pretty decent spring training. You could make a case for him to be on the team. It's not as strong as Kellnick, in my opinion, but I think it's hard for me to be okay with it. I understand, he might not be ready, the injury, all that sort of thing. I don't agree with, first of all, how, everything that has gone down, prior to the spring training with Mather's comments and manipulating service time and all that sort of thing. And then you just go and do it anyway. It is a little frustrating, I'm sure, for Kellnick to, have that happen, hear all those things, and then have it happen anyway. Now, I'm sure he's going to come out with a vengeance when he does get on the Mariners squad, because he's going to show him why he should have been on this team from opening day. So I think it's really the issue for me is punishing Kellnick and Julio for a COVID season that could not be anticipated for. Because you guys have both said if there was no, COVID season last year and there's regular minor leagues games, like he makes a team probably right away this season, unless I misread you guys. So I don't like how the Mariners have handled it. And I hope that it doesn't strain the relationship between the team and Kellnick, like Mather's comments probably did. So I just hope that Kellnick realizes that it's, not personal, but I have a feeling he's going to take it personally. And I hope that doesn't affect any sort of, extension when the time comes down the road. So I understand the move. I still don't like it. I think he should be on the roster. Kevin, I'm going to throw it back to you. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, he of course deserves it, but at the same time too, this is kind of a good thing for Mariners fans, and I'm going to put it to the reason why. We know Kellnick's a beast, and he's going to be a part of this future, versus you have three guys who are on the bubble, which is your three starting outfielders right now of Lewis, Haniger, and Trammell. Now, if one of those three pops off, it, especially in that month or two, like, it gives you more ways to get trade bait to get one of those guys out, because you are going to have eventually the problem with too many outfielders, and you need to trade away some players to go get more prospects to keep that farm system, running and turning, so to speak, down the line. So I think it's a good thing, because it gets him more plates down below. I want to see him hit a AAA, and I mean, he's probably going to murder AAA. Let's be honest. If he's doing what he's doing here, he's going to probably just go ham at AAA. But at the same time too, Trammell's been really hot, and so is Haniger pretty much. So, like, if we get a good solid month or two of just seeing good quality outfield play plus hot bat, you're going to have teams that are intrigued. And be like, hey, you tell Kellnick, be like, hey, we had them up there because they're not, one of them is not in our future plans. You are, so we had to, give other teams like kind of a nice viewing plate of what they could trade for type deal. So,
Sean?
I see both sides of it. I mean, we talked about this on the podcast. Without the injury, it'd be hard to ever tell Kellnick, especially with the numbers he put up, the rest of it, it'd be hard to tell him he doesn't deserve to be on a team. However, with the injury, you could combine that with the fact that he has played 20 games above single A in his life, and be like, look, you just
21,
don't know.
Thank you.
Okay, he played 21 games above single A. Like, it's just like that. You don't go from single A to the majors. Like, that's just not how this works. And he goes, and like he said, like, it's hard, Matthew, of like the 1 year of like, yeah, it's the 1 year of missing COVID, but it hurt the Mariners. Like again, like, you're looking at these guys, like Kellnick has played less than all these other guys at a certain level. And it's just like, you need to get at least some at bats, like to at least start somewhere to build those AA, if not AAA at bats. You can't, because jumping out from A is just hard. Again, if he had played all spring training, then health was not the issue. There was no little hiccup. He's got to make it. But they're going to use that combined. I think combining that with the games played, it's a legitimate concern that the Mariners have. Like, he just hasn't played enough seasoning. And Kellnick can complain all he wants, but it's a legitimate feather in the Mariners' cap. Like, look, COVID did suck. It did delay this. Like, it's inevitable. Like,
and plus there's other teams too that are probably facing the same thing with some other, Kellnick's one of their top stars, but there's probably other prospects that are delayed.
Wander Franco got delayed. He's the number one prospect on all baseball. He's got like an 80 valued future. Like, it's ridiculous. But like Kevin said, like, you're not moving Mitch Haniger. Mitch Haniger, people forget. When healthy, Mitch Haniger is a freaking beast. Like, we're talking like top 10 outfielder in all of baseball. Everyone's like so you cannot sit him for Mitch Haniger, period. Kyle Lewis, regardless of how he ended the season and what I say, he deserves a spot when healthy on this outfield. So basically only comes down to Trammell and him. And the fact is Trammell played very well also, and he wasn't hurt. And he's 2 years older and has played at AAA. So, like, how can you say Trammell doesn't deserve a spot as well over Kellnick? Because Kellnick has the hype. Trammell's also been like a top 30 overall prospect too. It's not like he's some bum. Like,
no, yeah, he's good.
So I looking at the Mariners, I see why they chose what they chose. If Trammell had not been going off, it'd be like one thing, but they were both going off, and you're like, well, I'll give the younger guy, some more seasoning in the minors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I hear what you're both saying. I think they're both valid points. It's just, it's hard for me to not even just give him, I know he's, used to being a starter and all that sort of stuff, but at least keep him on the roster and then sort him in there when you find the chance. Because if you are eventually planning on trading a guy, then, I get the first, month or two of an audition for, trade in case, they're not, competitive, but at the same time, like you can't necessarily bank on that, because what if all of them just tank and you can't trade any of them, and then you just bring Kellnick up and replace one of them? It's just
you could still trade Mitch Haniger because his track record. Oh shoot! Was everybody?
You're good.
You could still trade Mitch Haniger. His track record is just being healthy. If he's healthy, they know that like a couple month blip is fine. They know who he is when he plays. Mm-hmm. It's just that, can he be healthy? And if you show that he's healthy for like a month, it will probably hurt a little bit, but his trade value will still be there. But man, you can't call up Kellnick and waste a year of team control to put him on the bench. He's on your team. I think Kevin will agree. He has to play every day for you, especially wasting that year of eligibility. He has to be out there every single day.
Other than like an occasional rest day, like once every 10 days, like he will have to play every day because he's just too much of a beast.
At the major league level, to waste a year of control, you have to play him every day. You can't call him up and then be your fourth
based on what you're saying, then they're gonna have this. They're gonna have to trade someone.
This is what I said last year, and you said I hated Kyle Lewis.
Like, you do hate Kyle Lewis. That we already know.
You said I hated Kyle Lewis. I'm like, we already here. We haven't even got
here's the thing. You also have a DH spot, so you could play him in the DH spot.
But the issue is you also have the Julio Rodriguez coming up too. Like, you're having the issue, and we haven't even mentioned Julio Rodriguez's name. So I'm like, that's all I was saying when I said Kyle Lewis. I was like, guys, we're having an issue in the outfield very soon, and we need to solve this issue.
Also,
and you're like,
you kind of have an issue in the infield too. Like,
well, you have more questions in the infield though, Kevin. You have
that's true.
A Dylan Moore, who you're not sure. Evan White has to prove it, and then you have Crawford, who like really has to do something. So
that's what I'm saying. Because I was like, if Ty, because I don't see Ty France doing shortstop, but Evan Moore did play shortstop a couple games in spring training.
You mean Dylan Moore? Yeah,
Dylan Moore. Sorry,
could play. It's probably not great, but he could. But yeah, he has to prove himself too, because Dylan had a really good like last year, but before that he's not been great. So this is his prove it year too. So I say we're really good in the outfield, but the issue is like Kevin's kind of reverse problem is like, who are you in the infield?
Because eventually you're going to want to have that DH spot be the outfielder, odd man out versus like, Ty France.
Yeah.
So
it is like Kevin's right though. It is nice to have Ty France be the DH, and you can let the other guys play infield right now and see who they are. Because now if one of them doesn't work out, Ty France can play second or can play first, and then you can use one of your outfielders as the DH. But right now you need Ty France to be the DH so all these infielders can play some baseball and get some chance to play. Yeah.
I mean, looking at the outfield, I feel like if there was an outfielder to be traded, I would probably just go Mitch Haniger, unfortunately, just because of the youth of the rest of the guys. But I think you could make the case for Kyle Lewis, like Sean said, and you could honestly make the case for Trammell in my book.
The
I
track
know
record of trading
You want to keep one.
prospects. Yeah, the
You want to at
trading
least keep one.
the track record of trading top prospects multiple times, he's already been traded twice, is not good. So like trading him a third time, teams are going to be very wary on that. Like you're not going to get face value for him. 3 teams that would have given up on him. Like that's not, like they're going to be very wary of that.
And you probably want to keep 4 out of the 5 just because if you have Dave slot, and then if one of them goes down, you're good.
You also have your second round pick, Zach Deloche, who was like had the most hits for you in fall ball, including Julio Rodriguez. So like that's a long way off. Who knows what he's gonna be? But I'm just saying, like Kevin's right. You want to keep at least one of these guys. And I agree, Matthew. It's probably Mitch Hanger at this point because he's of his age. But all I was saying was last year was Kyle Lewis's value was never going to be higher. And his second half showed it. Like he tanked. He tried to lose that rookie of the year so bad. So I go like his value was never higher than it was earlier in that year. And
I mean, I know no one wants to sit on the bench, but I think you guys are on the train, the trade train for one of them.
Mitch Hanger.
I mean, if I don't mind holding on to all of them, and then because I don't know if you're necessarily going to get back what they're worth, depending on if you're at the deadline or something like that. Like you might just want to get rid of one of them just so you have the outfield set. I don't want to get rid of a guy just for a few prospects. You know what I mean? We got to get back what they're worth.
You have 6 outfielders if Zach pans out, 5 outfielders if he doesn't, and you're losing opportunity costs by not playing them. By literally sitting on the bench who's really good, you're losing value. Like you have to get a pitcher value or something like that in return. Like you sitting at Trammell, because if he's going off and you just sitting him because you have to play Kellnick, isn't doing you any good. It's actually hurting you. You're losing opportunity costs. Play the good players. If you have good players on your bench, you have to trade them for your team needs. You have no bullpen. Trade to get like some monster arms then or something, like because you have to get something with all these great outfielders.
A reliever would probably be the most appealing thing. Outside of
that,
I'm not sure.
I'm
not sure what else you would want to trade for. Outside of a reliever at this point.
I would take, like I said last year, I would have gone Kyle Lewis for Mackenzie Gore in a heartbeat straight up. Top left-handed pitcher in all of baseball. You sign me up.
Well, we will see how that shakes out with the outfield.
Kevin liked that one.
But I just want to get your guys' take on the starting rotation because I said that it's a pretty solid one. What do you guys think of the starting rotation as it comes into the regular season? Kevin, what do you think?
Looks solid so far, yeah. I mean, Marco's going to be your 1. Paxton, who's been going ham, is your 2. Do they have Kikuchi as 3? I haven't
Flexen as 3.
Oh, Flexen's 3.
Flexen is 3.
Okay. Like, Flexen had
which is nice. It mixes up the lefties
and good. Righties. I mean, he had another solid day today. Like, and then, what is it? Kikuchi, Sheffield, and then Dunn?
Kikuchi, Dunn.
Oh, okay.
Sheffield, okay. Kikuchi, Dunn. Yeah.
That makes a little bit more sense because Sheffield, even though Sheffield did struggle in 1 or 2 games, he's had a little bit more consistent, like 0-run games versus Kikuchi usually just has always 1 or 2 earned runs allowed. But I think that's going to get cleaned up though too. And then Dunn's kind of, I'm okay with Dunn being your 6 type of deal. Like on a good day, he's going to get you like 5 innings of like 2 to 3 run ball, which I'm okay with it. So I mean that's what you should get out of your 6, you know. So yeah, it's and if, like I said, if Paxton keeps doing what Paxton's doing, you can trade that off and go get more young sexy men. So
Sean, what do you think of the starting rotation?
I would agree with Kevin's word. I don't know if he used it intentionally, but I would say solid. I don't say it's exceptional because I think if Paxton's healthy, he's the true like frontline guy. Because when he's throwing 97 now, like if Paxton's throwing 97, like that dude's dangerous. It's just his health is his issue. Him and Marco are a pretty solid 1-2. Kevin's right. Flexen looks good. And then the back 3 are all like the guys who need to get some playing time early. So like Sheffield, Kikuchi, and Dunn. I really like Dunn, but I think Dunn is just treading water until Gilbert shows up. Unfortunately, like unless Dunn is just nuts, we all know Gilbert's coming, and I think baseball knows Gilbert's coming because his one start was just stupid, dirty. What he did to Mike Trout and Pujols, like striking them both out. It was just like, and that I think put everybody, include I saw like minor league baseball Twitter talking about it, like just the national thing was like, oh, Logan Gilbert here. So he's just. I'm rooting for Dunn. I really like him because he came over in the Kellnick trade that people forget about. But I think his position, unless somebody else really falters, is a long relief guy like Kevin was talking about.
Yeah, and that's a good thing too. Like we could always use extra solid.
Yeah, when those starters kind of like go down, they can throw a little harder because they're not going as long. They could kind of turn into a little bit of a beast. I mean, Mariano Rivera was a failed starter and then turned into a relief pitcher. So like, remember, all good relief pitchers were failed starters at one point. So. Yep. Like maybe him coming down, bumping it up a couple miles an hour, pitching one inning does wonders for him. Edwin Diaz, failed starter. So like, maybe that turns Justin Dunn around because I really like the person on top of the baseball player with Justin Dunn. So I don't know if you ever saw his MLB story. It's really cool. So, but I think that's the case. But the last Sheffield and Kikuchi are really interesting because of the strides they took. Justice was quietly, we talked about it, was quietly a very good pitcher, and Kikuchi was super unlucky last year and is now pumping 97 also. And he went to Driveline, which is the famous like Seattle-based pitching mechanics place to like work on that stuff and everything. And so he just needs to work on his walk issue. And if he does that, like the innings they show, if he doesn't walk anybody in an inning, his numbers are stupid. We're talking like Bieber numbers. It's just he gets himself in trouble at a much higher rate with walks than is allowed, and that's why it inflates his ERA. I'm not saying he has Bieber talent, but like his stuff is good. People like really underestimate his stuff, and just cut down those walks, man. That's all I gotta say. Now you're pumping 97. I'm really excited for Kikuchi as well. So I want to see Sheffield and Kikuchi. If they take that step, that this front five is looking pretty good.
All right, well, I want to mention the regular season. It starts on Thursday, so just going to go over the pitching matchups for the San Francisco Giants Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Marco is going to go up against Kevin Gossman. James Paxton's going to go up against Johnny Cueto, and then Chris Flexen's going to go up against Logan Webb for the first 3-game series. And they have an off day before they host Chicago for 3 games, and they go on the road for 3 against Minnesota and 4 against Baltimore. So I want to ask you guys what you are most looking at going into these first few games. Obviously, wins, loss, it's real early. It's, don't want to overreact or anything. But what I want to see most is how the catching position kind of sorts itself out. I'm not sure if it's Luis Torrens or Tom Murphy or who they're kind of leaning towards. I would think it's Tom Murphy, but, Luis Torrens is still on this team, so I imagine he'll still get some of the playing time. But I'm kind of curious to see what they do at the catching position, because while, Tom Murphy seems to be the guy right now, it's kind of the position I think is maybe the least set on the team, just because, you do have a lot of guys that are fairly set in their roles, it seems like, for the most part, maybe more at second, White at first, and then Seager at third base, and then your outfield is, basically set at this point, and then J.P. Crawford at shortstop. So catcher, I think, is going to be the most interesting position to watch when we go through these first few games of the season. Sean, what do you think?
The first couple games is the Giants are actually kind of a sneaky good hitting team through the lineup, like 1 through 9 or 1 through 8. I mean, no, they're coming to Seattle. So 1 through 9 because there's DH. So I want to see how the pitching does. And I want to see the one thing, Matthew, is interesting. You brought up catcher because I agree. But I think in the past, there's been no challenging from minor leaguers guys coming up. Like they're not having to worry about something. This year, like every spot, basically, like we said, is like your spot is on blast if you don't play well because someone is coming to take your job. And like first base, second base, we got Ty France now who can play a couple positions. Like the outfield we talked about. The catching, we have Kyle Raleigh coming up. Really, the only one that's safe for a year is J.P. Crawford at shortstop. So, but even then, if he plays, I'm sure they'll, like Kevin said, they'll find a way to replace it. Like,
I mean, look at Kevin's face. Did you see when he said that?
Yeah. Pitching, like this first week, Dunn, Sheffield, Kikuchi, even Flexen, like we got guys, Hancock, Kirby, Logan, they're coming, and you better play or your job's done. Like, And so I want to see how these guys play with some real, finally, like a couple of years pressure behind them. Like people are coming. So that's what I want to see. I want to see how they handle the pressure of some depth behind them.
Kevin, what are you looking for?
Yeah, more or less the same. That or like if they don't proceed, then you either can go to bullpen or you're kind of gone type of deal. Yeah, like I don't know even if JP's, because like I said, I think if Dylan Moore hits well, he can be I mean, he's not going to be the same level defensively as what JP Crawford's done, and that's going to be what's interesting is if JP Crawford has been continues to do what he has been doing and playing like high level defensively at shortstop, whether it's kind of like the Evan White thing, like do you just keep him in just because he's so good defensively type of deal, and the rest of your team just holds him up type, you know. Yeah, and then kind of want to see Paxton see if he can remain healthy, hopefully, because that's kind of been his knock. See if he can repeat, because literally he's going to be playing the Giants again. He literally just faced them and just shelled the crap out of him. So let's see if he can do it again this coming Friday. Yeah, Friday. So like within a week. Other than that, hopefully bullpen gets cleaned up a little bit. Just, you know, a little bit more clean play. I know that's going to be like kind of our Achilles heel on this team is going to be the bullpen. So hopefully they kind of shore that up to where they're not giving up as much. But, you know, you're going against paid other teams that are going to do their best to try to, you know, put runs on you. So, yeah, and then I agree with Matt too on the catcher part. That is going to be interesting. I think they're going to start with Tom Murphy just because of his power. And what he's able to do at the plate, pretty much. I think Cal Raleigh could sit at least. He might be called up later this year, but I don't see him anything earlier than All-Star break, to be honest. Just because there's time, and you want to see what he can do down to AAA. And then just kind of what they do at second base, really. Just like, is it Dylan Moore? Like if and when Shedlong gets healthy, do you bring him up? Like type of deal, or like you got like Marmoleos' bat's been good and he's a flex guy. Haggerty's bat's been good and he's a really weird flex guy. So I don't know if they do that. Like we'll see.
All right. Well, let us know what you think of the Mariners going into the regular season. Go ahead and tweet at us. I'm at Beta_Matt. Sean's at Sean_Beta. Kev's at Kev's Believe First and Billy's 3. Let's talk about some Seattle Seahawks football now. There's no actual football to talk about, but there are some moves that were made after our last show, all on the defensive side of the football. So Carlos Dunlap re-signed on a 2-year deal worth $16.6 million with $8.5 million guaranteed. Benson Mayowa, Kevin and I mentioned that on this show. We really wanted him back, and he re-signed on a 2-year deal with a max value of $8.8 million, $4.61 million guaranteed in year 1. They signed Kerry Hyder to a 3-year, $16.5 million deal with a chance to make $17.5 million. And then they brought back a former defensive tackle, Al Woods, signing a 1-year, $3 million deal that includes a $750,000 signing bonus. So all the signings were on the defensive side of the ball, on the defensive line. So what did you guys think of the signing? So, Kevin, I'm going to start with you.
Oh, wow. Yeah. To be honest, it's not where we needed to go. I'm still gonna. I'm tooth and nail. It needed to be O-line. Like that's where we should have focused. We should have went out and got a guy like Eric Fisher. We're not going to. Yes, it helps solidify the D-line. Yes, you're gonna get more pressure. Now, hopefully, if Pete's smart, I'm going to put a little nod in there. If Pete's smart, we don't know if he is. You use this that if they're able to get pressure by themselves to where you're not putting Jamal Adams in every other play to rush, to where Jamal Adams actually plays safety and in coverage type of deal, to where, I mean, you still want to blitz Jamal Adams, but nowhere, as we're going to get to in a future episode that I know Sean's salivating at the mouth to get to. You don't want it to do it as often as what we've been doing it. I like the what is this? Kerry New
Hyder.
Heinen?
Hyder.
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 Hyder. He was kind of like a weird unsung hero of that D-line last year. I had to go back and look, and I was just like, oh yeah, he did exist. Just because everybody sees like the Eric Armstrongs, the Bosas and stuff like that, and then
because
like,
they're all super good.
the guys that first round picks, top 12 picks in drafts and stuff like that. So, like it's just you kind of just brought back the same stuff with plus Hyder. So it's like you brought back a 24th ranked defensive scheme minus KJ at this moment. He's still floating, whether we'll get him or not. We'll get into that probably later on, I imagine. It's trying to, exactly. So you have the 24th ranked team bringing back. It's like, are you going to just rinse and repeat like type of deal? Or are you going to learn from your mistakes and try to shuffle things around to where like like I said, your blitz packages are more not predictable by especially in the NFC West. But I mean, I like Al Woods. He's a good interior lineman. I'm glad we got rid of Jaron Reed. I was actually excited when I saw Jaron Reed cut because I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna go get an O-line. I'm like, maybe this is the money that we need to go put toward an O-line. And then we get Dunlap, and I was like, God damn it. I'm like, well, it's Pete, so I'm not surprised because he thinks that Dave wins games, and it's just like, no, that's not what wins. No, quarterback play and outscoring wins games. So, it's not shocking that we did it because it's Pete, but overall, I'm not happy, but I'm not pissed off either because it's like it's coming, like like your kid's gonna touch the stove and burn their hands type of deal. You're not, it's a thing. Like I'm just gonna put it in that.
Sean, what do you think?
I actually will disagree. I liked the moves they did. Cutting Reed was good. Like, I agree with Kevin. I was a big proponent of Frank Clark was here. I did not like Frank Clark because I did not think he deserved a lot of the money and the hype he was getting. I thought Reed was the reason he was getting a lot of those single coverages, and Reed was like doing a lot of the work on the inside. I thought he should have got paid. Since he got paid, he has not lived up to that paycheck and needed to go. It's great that he went to Kansas City for less money. Pizza culture guy. That's neither here nor there. I like Ben Semeoa for the money they signed him. I like Dunlap for the money they signed because they needed to fix it. Now they both need to play better than they did last year. But I think they can a full season together with that system and that thing. Maybe they'll figure it out. More time can't hurt. So I think that's the case. I wouldn't be completely done with that side of the football in that area, but Al Woods, again, I really like him next to Puna. We just need some Collier. We need some Taylor. We need some Robinson to step up, but that's fine. I will agree with Kevin. Like, O-line would be nice, but I just don't think it's in the cards. I don't think we're going to do it. So I do like the moves they're making on defense. And if you extend Jamal Adams, which I will say you have to do because of what you gave to get him, when you extend Jamal Adams, you'll even have some more money. Me and Matthew were talking about this before. Maybe get a Clowney, just make that D-line even crazier because I don't think you're going to get an O-lineman. Just go crazy. Go LOB style. Just run like 4 defensive linemen out there. Do something because Taylor and Robinson, I don't think for some reason Pete trusts. So I don't like Collier. I don't think he's the guy. I don't want to see him in rotation that much, going to be honest. So get some defensive talent, maybe get a linebacker if you don't trust Cody Barton. I'm not saying I don't believe any of these things. I'm saying Pete Carroll doesn't believe these things. I just don't think they're going to build in the offense anymore. And you could free up some more money to get some more pieces on defense. Oh, you need an opposite corner. But I don't think there's any opposite corner that's really like high profile or really that out there. So you're going to have to draft one or do something. Use some money to get another corner. opposite Witherspoon because I don't want Trey Flowers being that guy.
Oh, no,
I'm
it's
sorry.
DJ Reed?
DJ Reed.
DJ Reed's in the nickel, isn't he?
I think
No,
he's taking the starting
no,
corner job
Amadi.
at this point. Yeah.
Ugo Amadi is your nickel.
Is he? Did you trust Pete Carroll to do that?
I mean, I think that'll shake itself out in camp because I'm not necessarily sure who the starters are.
Actually, Blair's our nickel technically.
Because
Blair's our nickel.
Reed played slot for the longest time, and so that was like what the issue was like.
Then do they switch Blair over to the other side?
That's the problem. They have 3 slot guys, and you're like, your starting outside guy right now projected is Flowers still. So I'm like,
unless they sign Dunbar for like super butthole.
I mean, I'm okay with Reed playing out there, but Reed didn't really play out there that much. So that's kind of like, we're going to now switch in positions, which again, I'm okay with, but like projection right now, the only outside guy is Flowers. So
I mean, we signed Reed off the street and he played pretty well. So I think he'll be adaptable.
But also again, like he played like well for 6 games. Like we're investing a lot of stake into a guy that played well for a very short amount of time.
Well, you know,
so
what
like
Pete Carroll likes to do. He likes to make people out of their positions.
I know, but Reed could quickly turn back into a pumpkin. And if you have the opportunity with signing Jamal Adams and freeing up some money and getting a proven guy, I'm not against it. I'm not against it. Letting Reed and Ugo play your 3-4 nickel or something like that, or 2 guys. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Sean for the most part on this one. I think if O-line wasn't signed, that D-line was the other need that they really needed to sign. I think they definitely shorted up. Like Kevin said, I was like, Kerry Hyder, who is that? And then I looked at his stats, 8.5 sacks, 19 assists on tackles, 28 solo. Started 14 games for San Francisco last year. So I think that's a great signing.
It coincides with the 2 games after the 2 monster injuries, and then he was clearly the backup and was forced into a starting role. So
yeah, but I mean, it worked out pretty well because he played well and he earned himself some money. So I don't see a problem with it at all because you got your shot, you proved that you can play, and you got paid pretty good. So I don't mind it at all. I think we basically in free agency have signed our defensive line. I think it's probably going to be Dunlap and Mayoa on the ends, and then you've got Hyder along with Puna on the inside, and then you can have Al Woods kind of shift in there whenever he's needed. So I like the defensive line. Sean mentioned Clowney. I think that's probably a little bit too expensive, but you never know.
Just do it.
If they did, that would be a pretty nice defensive line. You'd have 6 guys you could basically rotate in there.
I'm tired of Jamal Adams up at the front of the line blitzing every time. Just get some guys who could get to the quarterback without Jamal Adams being up there every 2 snaps.
Yeah. So, I mean, I like shoring at the D-line because, like you guys have said, offense rules in today's NFL. And if you want to stop the quarterback, you have to, as Kevin always says, get in his face. No one likes being –
punch him in the mouth.
Punch him in the mouth. There you go.
Mouth.
Yeah, right in the mouth. And
yeah.
I think Kerry Hyder and Puna Ford will be punching people in the mouth all season next year. So that will be nice to see. I do agree with Kevin. I would like them to sign an O-lineman. He mentioned Fisher, still out there. There's still guys out there. So
I wanted to sign an O-line too. Just so you know, I just didn't think it was going to happen.
So, well, if you cut Diggs, you might have.
We're not cutting Diggs. I agree you should, but you're not going to.
I don't think it's out of the question for them to still sign an offensive lineman before the draft. I don't think it's very likely they will after the draft. So I think before the draft.
Mean, if you don't, then that second round pick needs to be an offensive tackle, period.
Yeah. I would agree with you on that, Kevin. That needs to be your top pick in the draft, whichever pick it is. That is your first pick in the draft. That needs to be an offensive lineman. But there are still guys out there, so I could see them signing maybe not like a big deal, but maybe a couple smaller deals for some players who are just kind of looking for places to play. So I don't mind that. I would prefer a couple solid, proven, $8 million a year guys, but that might be a little bit out of the cards with how much money they've spent on the defensive line so far. But I do like what they did on the defensive line in free agency. So I do want to talk about the guys that are still available. And we did mention KJ Wright. I do want to talk about that. There have been rumors that he is talking to Dallas. So that seems like probably the most likely place he'll go if he doesn't come back to Seattle. So I'm kind of curious. I'm just going to ask you, do you guys think they will re-sign KJ Wright? And if so, what is the contract if they do?
No.
No?
I don't even think the second question is worth even
Okay.
entertaining.
Well, I know,
I think he's gone.
I feel bad for him because like Dallas's defense is a shit show right now, but I mean he helps them a lot.
You don't have to be that good when the offense puts up 40. I mean, like
yeah, it's true.
Just try not to suck as much as they did last year's the goal.
He would be a great addition to Dallas because that defense is hurting. So I could see it going against poop quarterbacks. Like you're moving out of murderer's row of quarterback, well of teams technically, good teams of good offenses versus like Fitzmagic with that, and then Daniel Jones and the kid who can't throw in Philly.
Hurts.
Yeah, Hurts. Yeah. So and Jerry Jones likes to overpay for things too, so he'll probably get paid a substantial amount. So yeah. I just don't see him come back now.
I have this feeling, maybe it's just like a Seahawks fan feeling, that he will come back to the Seahawks. Now, my guess on the contract is 2 years, $8 million guaranteed, with incentives to possibly make $16 million. That is what I think.
Wow, so like half of it is incentives.
I think the longer KJ sits out there, the more that he'll be willing to come back on a cheaper deal. Not that he doesn't deserve the money he would get paid in probably Dallas, where else he might want to go. But I think that he will end up coming back to the Seahawks for that amount of money.
Go to Kansas City, like everybody else. Every other Seahawks just is going to Kansas City. Just
so that is what I think. KJ will come back for, if he does come back. But if he doesn't, thank you, KJ, for all the great years.
Oh yeah.
And I really should buy a KJ Wright jersey. That's a great jersey to have. But
yeah.
Gentlemen, anybody else you want to talk about that is still out there for the Seahawks? We did mention Quentin Dunbar. Do you think that is a likely possibility at this point, or is that no? Go ahead.
I wanted a corner, and I was saving it till the end. I want Richard Sherman back in Seattle. Let's do the thing.
Yeah,
let's
Kevin,
do
what
it.
Do you think? What do you think, Kevin?
He's been very good when he plays. Let's do it. Fair deal, like Matthew said, something like that. Let's do it. Incentive based, because I want you to play and show that you're healthy. Let's do it.
My main thing is, even though I want Sherman back, one, the whole beef with Russell thing, like I don't know how that's going to handle, especially now that Russ is like not robot Russell.
If he's willing to come back, that means it's not an issue.
He's still robot Russell.
Well, at the same time too, then it's like it's good and it's it's good because then you kind of have Legion of Boom depth damn near. Because like then it's like
a safety again.
Okay, so then your starters are Witherspoon, Sherman on the outsides, and then your slot is either Reed or Blair
or Ugo,
and then Ugo being your third. Like, there's just so much. Oh my God!
You don't have to play Blair as a nickel corner anymore. You can play Reed or Ugo. You don't have to play your safety at corner.
But Blair, to me, and you will probably hear this too. Blair needs to be on the field. Like Blair
needs to. Well, in an ideal world, Blair just needs to play safety over Diggs. Like we're just stop kicking their tires, cut Diggs, and play Blair. Like what are we doing?
But as you said, they're not going to do that though.
Yeah.
So then it's Blair on the bench again for another fucking year.
But Blair isn't a corner. I don't want him playing nickel corner.
Exactly.
Like that would just hurt.
I'd rather him play safety, but they're not going to cut Diggs. So it's just like, I don't know what the fuck. It's
So do you want? The question was, do you want Sherm? Like the question is,
and honestly, if you cut Diggs, that money can go to Sherm. So it's like, why? I mean, and then you have Blair, who's technically a better safety, back there playing safety for you, along with Adam.
Although, man, you got two just down the hill.
What is his name? Ryan Neal.
Is he signed? I thought he was a free agent.
You're literally set everywhere, damn near.
I thought Neal's a free agent, but the problem is if you have Blair
they resigned Neal last week.
You have Blair and Adams that are two of the same style safeties. They're both Cam Chancellors. You have no Earl Thomas back there. You have two guys who are just trying to take people's heads off. Like
You probably teach Blair to be more of a free safety, most likely.
Gosh, but that's where you lose his oomph. That's where you lose the killer instinct. But I agree.
Just gonna have no safeties over the top, okay?
So Kevin, Kevin, your answer is, do you want Sherm or not?
Yes. I would say yes, just because most people are not going to throw the Sherm side of the field, which makes that defense better, because then it cleans up the mistakes. You can focus. You can give a guy like Witherspoon help over the top with a guy like Blair or Neal or whoever the fuck you want to put back there, which allows more. That actually helps Adams on his blitzing packages. Like, there's not going to be as much stuff going down the field when half the field is taken off by Richard Sherman. So it's, if Richard Sherman's still been Richard Sherman, even though he's older, but like if he's healthy, it solves your defensive woes a little bit better. Then I agree. Then your defense moves from like 24th, possibly to top 15-ish, maybe even top 10 if you're lucky type of deal, and they all stay healthy with that depth. But I'd do it. Just cut Diggs. So
just cut Diggs.
Just cut Diggs. Just get him out of there.
Yeah,
I think it's $6 million. I think it's $6 million.
I don't know if it's
6 or 7 million.
I thought it was like 3.
Oh, maybe it's 3.
But still, it's like
some money you could put towards Sherman. So,
I mean, I think Richard would be willing to come back on a
Kevin, it's right.
guarantee with
6.1.
6.1. Yeah, like I said. And then when this defense is still giving up 29 points, then you can grab Pete Carroll by the head, give him a little slap, and be like, that's why you don't load up defense, because if you load up the offense, get that man and own line, cut those sluts, get the man and own line, and let's Russell cook and
those sluts.
Sorry.
Wow.
All right. Well, we're running out of time here, so let's get out of here on one last topic here. So the San Francisco 49ers traded to get the number 3 pick in the draft. I need to bring it up here. I don't know exactly what they gave away. I had it.
A first in 2022, 2023. I didn't pull it up yet, man. I'm going off memory.
And a third round.
This year. Third rounder this year.
Yep.
Yeah, so they gave up quite a lot to move up to the number 3 spot. And Miami turned the 12th pick into the 6th pick. So they have like picks for the next 3 years. They're just loaded up with picks.
They should have just kept it. Stupid.
So I've seen a lot of reports, and I watched some of the national shows today, and they were all saying that they are moving up to take a quarterback, and they specifically said Mac Jones. So I'm curious what you guys think of this and how this will affect the NFC West. I'm just gonna start here. If these rumors are true, if they traded up to get Mac Jones, good. I don't really see the reasoning behind it, other than Jimmy's health. Jimmy's health is probably the biggest concern here, because you still have him under contract for 2 more years. You have already paid him his guarantee, so that was spread out for the first 3 years. So theoretically, I guess if you did draft Mac Jones and he worked out, you could just cut Jimmy for not as much money of dead cap, and then be set for however long Mac Jones is there for. But I'm not particularly sold. Like we talked about, I think it was after the show last week. I'm not particularly sold on any of the first round quarterbacks outside of Trevor Lawrence. So I don't mind them doing this at all. My hunch is I would, if I were them, I would want to draft Penny Sewell out of Oregon, just to keep that line like the top. You just signed Trent Williams for a bunch. And if you get Penny Sewell, you shore up that offensive line, then Jimmy doesn't have to worry about getting hurt as much. So I think I would, if I were the 49ers, I'm taking Penny Sewell in that 3rd position, just because he's not going to get past like 5 or 6. I think he'll probably get taken by the Bengals, most likely, as most experts have predicted, just to make sure Joe Burrow stays alive back there. But quarterback, Sean's going to probably counter me because we talked about this on Twitter a little bit. I don't think quarterback is a particular need for this team outside of Jimmy's health. You can't rely on Nick Mullins or CJ Beathard if Jimmy keeps getting hurt. So I understand it from that perspective. But when Jimmy's healthy, he helped them reach the Super Bowl. So I don't see the need for drafting a quarterback there. But if they do that, I like that. Go ahead and take a risk on a guy who may or may not pan out. Would they sit him like Aaron Rodgers did behind Brett Favre? I don't think so. So it's kind of a mystery move in my book. Sean, what do you think?
I was gonna say you should go to Kevin because I want to talk a lot about this. I don't think this is a good move for the Seahawks fans, particular, because Matthew, your option over here, the 49ers' other guard or tackle who's on the rookie deal is also a top 20 player O lineman in the NFL. So their O line is stacked. They do not need O line, period. They do not need a tight end, fourth best in the league. Their two receivers ranked top 20 in football in efficiency. Like, they are loaded. They are ready to go. This team, when healthy, I think people forgot who the 49ers were. This team, when healthy, in spite of Jimmy Garoppolo, went to the Super Bowl. They are just very, 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 very good. This team lost. I'll put it in the Seahawks perspectives. This team lost essentially KJ Wright, Bobby Wagner, Jamal Adams, Carlos Dunlap, Russell Wilson, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Dwayne Brown, and won 6 games still. If the Seahawks lost those guys, they win at most 2. At most 2. You take all of those players away. Do you think, Kevin, they win more than 2 games?
No.
They won 6 games and were a play away from winning 7, almost 500. And they played a first place schedule and still won 6 games with that. That team was, like you said, Matthew, we've got 2 of their guys they let go, and we're excited about it. Like, this team was so deep and does such a good job drafting and coaching that it's terrifying. And the only thing and now they're going to get healthy and play a 4th place schedule. The only thing that is worrisome is all their corners, their best corner stayed, Verrett. So, he's, really good. But the other 2, Sherm, who was good when he was healthy, and then Witherspoon left. But other than that, they've done what they need to do. They still have 2 of the all-pro D linemen. They still have the number 1 graded linebacker in all of football last year. And everyone forgot that. Fred Warner, number 1 graded player. So it's just they're amazing. And the floor for this team, when healthy, is Super Bowl contender, which is not the Seahawks ceiling right now, or not the Seahawks floor. So at worst case, with Jimmy G and how this team is constructed, they are Super Bowl contenders. The only way this cannot hurt them in the now, because if worst case, whoever they trade, I also heard it was Fields, which was the sneak play they're doing here with everyone thinking they're going to take Mac Jones and take Fields because they don't want the Jets to take him. What they're going to do is I lost my train of thought. Their floor is so low that all they need right now is this quarterback. And if he's bad, they just play Jimmy G and could go to the Super Bowl. If he's good, the Seahawks don't win the division for the next 8 years minimum. That's the trade-off. The floor is so high for this team. It's only a high upside play. It's the Mariners outfield. If Trammell is still good, you just trade him for the next guy. That's what they're doing. They're just doing this at the only position they really need. What we talked about, the most important position in football is quarterback. The 49ers do not have a great quarterback. So they're we have a great team other than quarterback. Jimmy's fine. He's not bad, but he's not good. If they had a better quarterback, they win the Super Bowl because they complete that pass in the end of the game. I know Kevin knows what I'm talking about. A lot of quarterbacks complete that ball, game's over, 49ers win. So, if that's the case, and you could upgrade at the most important position, trade all these pieces you got. You don't need, they don't need to use their first round on an O lineman. They don't need a tight end. They don't need a wide receiver. They don't need a D lineman. They don't need a linebacker. You can make the case they need a corner, but that's about it. They need a quarterback. So they use all these picks, top 3 pick, get what you need. That is what I'm asking the Seahawks to do. Get what you need, not with a sexy, crazy pick. It's just get something you freaking need. And they only need a quarterback. And that's all. To make a crazy super team, they only need a quarterback.
Kevin, what do you think?
Yep. Yeah, for the most part, I'd have to agree with Sean. It's not good. They pretty much need a quarterback because Garoppolo gets hurt. And since the trade happened, I pretty much have been focusing on film because I like to watch film a little bit more than I watch like combine and stuff like that. So I've been watching film on pretty much all the quarterbacks that are going to be drafted in the first round. I've been watching some Trevor Lawrence tape because I don't think the Jaguars are going to be dumb and pass up on him. We've been shocked before, so who knows?
Did you see? Hold on, Kevin. Before you go, did you accidentally see what they tweeted out today?
No.
Guess who we're gonna take at number 1? It was just some generic football player move, and someone actually figured out it was a picture of Trevor Lawrence. Like it was, they had removed it and just made like a fake CGI guy, and it was just a still shot of Trevor Lawrence. So they're doing a very bad job of hiding who they're drafting number 1 overall.
I'm not surprised. It's Tony Khan.
Yeah,
I love Tony Khan to death, but
yeah. Anyways, go.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start out with if the Jets pull a Jets and don't get Zach Wilson, we're in trouble because Zach Wilson has probably out of the quarterbacks other than Trevor Lawrence to have a Pat Mahomes type. Now, the only knock on Zach Wilson is that he hasn't really played good competition other than like UCF and Houston.
No, he played Coastal Carolina.
Yeah. But he had he had a really good bowl game against UCF, and I watched that tape, and he did do some crazy throws. Like there was some crazy on the run cross body, like there was good stuff. Like I wouldn't say it's like Pat Mahomes ish, but maybe like you could see like that's something he could go into type of deal. So I even if we're kind of going to the, area of Pat Mahomes, I don't want to see that in a 49ers uniform. So that's why I'm just saying no. Hopefully the Jets take him and just let's move on from that. And I think Robert Saleh wants his own guy type of deal. And I think what's his face is gone. Darnold, that is out of there. So then you go to 3. So then I was kind of like, okay, so then instead of Mac Jones, Justin Fields, and possibly Trey Lance, if people because some people who have a big erection for him, like this guy, will know that Trey Lance just does crazy things, but he's also in Division I against teams that are not.
We'll talk about that later. I found some numbers, Kevin. We'll look at a later podcast. Yeah.
But what he can do with his arm and his decision making is pretty good for what you see on tape. Mac Jones, because a lot of people were like, why Mac Jones? And I was kind of like, well, I'm kind of interested too. Why is Mac Jones kind of getting the what he's got? And it kind of makes sense with the Niners because one, when Mac Jones is not like when he has a nice pocket and a nice O-line, like I think his arm's better than Justin Fields. I think it's a little bit more accurate and it's a little bit deeper. Like now, at the same time, too, he also has Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle, 2 really beast receivers. So it's kind of like how much of that is Mac Jones? How much of that is Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle just being freak of nature?
For information, though, Alabama wide receivers said they liked playing with Matt Jones better than Tua. They said he was better than Tua.
Oh,
they said that the other day.
And like I said, he's got a better arm. Like he can throw it deeper. That's for damn sure. Like that man can sling it. I wouldn't say it's to the effect of like a Josh Allen type deal, but if you need him to get the ball 40 to 45 yards downfield, he could probably do it. And he could probably do it pretty accurately. There were some balls that I was kind of impressed with when I was watching his tape. I was like, damn, that's a good throw. But then there were some balls where like Devontae Smith just makes a corner look stupid. And then he just wide the frick open, like 20 yards downfield and just gets it to him type deal. Same with like Waddle. There was one where Waddle just made a corner like eat dirt and just he was wide open downfield. And I'm like, okay, cool, type of deal versus Justin Fields. Like it's, there's a lot more catches in traffic type of deal. So that would be the only knock is that Justin Fields is working with less and has like more receivers in traffic that he's making completions too, which is a thing you want to see. But if he's able to do that, because there were some catches, like some passes that like there was one that I thought was going to get picked because it went by 2 corners and he just perfectly put into in Devontae Smith's hands in the end zone. And I was like, damn, that was a really good throw. And it was like 25 yards too, and it was a missile. if he checks all the rest of the boxes, like, and with that O line and he keeping him upright and not asking him to do a whole lot too, like he doesn't have to sling it. Like they have an established run game. That's what Shanahan's bread and butter is running that ball, to where like he's not going to have to throw it 30 to 40 times a game. Like, I think they're still going to kind of do like what you had with Russell in the beginning. Like you have a guy like beast mode back there, but versus it's not beast mode. You just have a beast O-line with a good running back. Like you don't need to have Mac Jones or Justin Fields be the be all guy for you, even though you do have beast receivers like Kittle, type of, that also helps too. But I could see either or. I mean, I think Justin Fields is a safer pick just because I like what I see out of his tape a little bit more. But I think the higher ceiling as far as arm talent would be Mac Jones. So
do you think it's a good? You already said it's not a good thing for Seattle.
You're a little bit.
You're like away from your mic.
Sorry, you. Sorry, I was following. You don't think it's a good thing for them to trade up?
Oh, I think it's a hell of a good thing. No, it's they should have.
No, for us, for the Seahawks. For the Seahawks,
it sucks for us. Yeah, no, because it's like everybody's got their quarterback now, and then it's just good. Like the blood fight just got worse, like type of deal. Like
Goff and Jimmy are going to lead this division.
I will say this: other than Stafford, I don't think anybody's going to outshoot Russ because Russ is the king. But the thing is, they have better O lines. That's the only poopy part, and that's why you need to get O line.
Kevin, the problem is they have better coaches and better talent.
Let me do a little rebuttal, and then you guys can respond.
DK and Tyler though are I don't.
It's not just receivers, man.
Let me do a little rebuttal here. So I like them taking Mac Jones because I have never believed in Alabama quarterback, specifically because they always have the best wide receivers to throw to. I mean, look at the last few Alabama quarterbacks: Mac Jones, Tua, who hasn't particularly panned out, Jalen Hurts, who we're not
Tua
a
has
fan
a winning
of.
record, by the way.
But how much was that of Tua?
I mean, California quarterbacks threw to Vincent Jackson and Deshaun Jackson, and his name was Aaron Rodgers. I mean, he played okay in the NFL.
I mean, Blake Barnett, Cooper Bateman, Jake Coker, Blake Sims, AJ McCarron, Greg McElroy. Any of these names sound familiar to you in the NFL?
How many were drafted in like the top 3 rounds?
AJ McCarron, Greg McElroy.
AJ McCarron was drafted in like the 5th or the 6th round.
Yeah.
I remember watching that.
Just Tua. It was like something like
Tua was the only one that was taken.
Like the first.
Either way, Devontae Smith and Jalen Waddle are making him better than he is. That's my personal opinion. If you want to draft Mac Jones, be my guest. I do want to pose a question to both of you. So, based on who you think they're going to take, is he the starter coming into camp? Like, is he going to be above Jimmy? Whether it's
Mac Jones or Justin Fields.
Mac Jones, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson.
Or Trey
Me personally,
Lance.
if I am picking a quarterback in this draft outside of Trevor Lawrence, it's Trey Lance. I want a guy who has some mobility, who has a pretty decent arm, and I'm not picking a guy who is Mac Jones, a prototypical sit back there and wait to get pummeled since you can't move. I don't like quarterbacks that don't have great mobility anymore. You cannot survive in today's NFL unless you can move a little bit. So I think
Brady won the Super Bowl.
Huh?
Tom Brady just won the Super Bowl.
Valid, but
I'm just saying, like,
but if I'm playing with a team, I want a guy who can move. That's what I'm saying.
I get it. I'm just saying, whatever your quarterback does, you have to build around that quarterback. You can win either way. You have to build around that way.
To be fair, if Pat Mahomes' O-line is not dumb,
we're not nitpicking my comment.
Kevin. I know.
Because I agree with you. Patrick Mahomes was the better player, but
So let me ask you, who do you think they'll take, and does he start over Jimmy G? I think I'm going to believe the rumors. I think they take Mac Jones. I don't think he starts over Jimmy G. I don't think he's a better quarterback than Jimmy G at this point. Maybe he'll take over if Jimmy G's like slacking a little bit, but I don't see him taking the starting role from Jimmy G. Kevin, what do you think?
I think it will really depend on what preseason looks like. Whether they'll take, I don't know, just because of the arm talent and the fact that they have a really good O-line, like I said, I personally, just based off the tape that I've seen, I think Mac Jones has the higher arm talent and accuracy downfield than Justin Fields. Justin Fields on the intermediate stuff and stuff in traffic, he has more experience with, but I just haven't really seen now whether he could probably do it. I don't know. Like I said, the tape only helps so much, unfortunately. But pro days help a little bit on that, but you know, when with a corner in the receiver's face and you have people coming after you,
it's
a
like
whole different thing.
Kevin, it's yeah, like I think Kevin agree. It's tape and combine. Pro days are so hard. There's so many variables with pro days.
I think, yeah, I think you kind of have to make him the starter just because Jimmy G just like there's so many ducks that man does even when healthy. Like it's weird. You also want to give, honestly, it'd be a confidence boost too, like to Mac Jones or Justin Fields, be like, hey, you're the starter. Like Jimmy G has been our guy for the last 3 years and we're putting him over you. That's how much we believe in you. But at the same time too, we're not throwing you into the fire. Like you're getting a solid O-line and a great running game to where like it's not all on you. Like it's the perfect bet. Like that's what you want them to do. That's what Russell came into, which helped him groom into a really good quarterback, even though he was a good quarterback. But like, that's what you want to help to groom them, so to speak, versus doing it like 3 years down the line when, you know, money's come in and you've had to cut some people. And now maybe the O-line's not nearly as great or your running game type of deal. And then Mac Jones or Justin Fields has to make a little bit more plays and the pressure's on him type of deal. Like this is the best. Like whoever gets drafted, like I guarantee you, both of them are like, for the love of God, let me go to San Fran, because that is the best looking scenario. Yeah. Even Trevor Lawrence is like, please forget about me, Jacksonville and Jets. Let me go to San Fran.
I don't know. Jacksonville has a ton of money and could do basically whatever they want. They could do basically whatever they want. And
not to say that like Trevor Lawrence is going to be put into a pretty good situation. He's got a number one receiver down there. His running game is okay. The O-line's,
and they have enough picks and money to fix any problem.
I'm not saying the Jets is a little bit more of an S show.
Yeah, that's an S show. That is a show.
I think Robert Saleh and another guy with a lot of picks, a lot of money. It's something that could probably be turned around. It's not going to be this year, but I could see in like 2 to 3 years,
take a while.
If Robert Saleh is smart along and the GM, like it's something that could turn around, especially in the division that really, though, I don't know, with Miami having so many picks now too, it's like that division's kind of sneakily growing type deal. We'll see what they do, but
I will say, I don't think it's Mac Jones. I think they go Fields. Now, we're not going to say whether I think that's the right call or not. I don't, I mean, who knows? I think regardless of who they take and they trust enough, I think they'll be given a shot to start over Jimmy. Whether they take it or not is a different story. I think they'll be given a shot and they'll play. But I think that's kind of missing the point. I think the point is if they're not doing well, they could just pull him and then play Jimmy G and then make the playoffs anyway, because they're playing a fourth place schedule either. Like this is like they could punt part of this year and be like, screw it, we lost a couple of games we shouldn't have lost. Whatever, we have a fourth place schedule. Let's just play Jimmy G again and win 12 games. Like now, like it's like they're so talented. Other than that, they can kind of lose those games and play. They're playing like the Eagles and what the Carolina Panthers, and we're playing the Packers and Washington, but like, or the Saints,
but Saints are going to be,
but still, like, they're still a talented football team. It's just they don't have a quarterback. But like, we're playing Saints and Packers, and they're playing like the Eagles and the Lions with Goff. Like, what like, so they could punt some of these games and be like, look, we might lose a close game to Arizona early in the year, but we're trying to figure out a quarterback situation. But we have enough buffer to like, and we're good enough that we're gonna just run this thing like after a while, because I gotta say, like, here, like, if grades are not the end all be all, but let's be very clear here. Those two receivers in San Francisco graded average better than Tyler and DK did.
Yeah.
Between the two, you add them up and divide it, their average score was higher than DK and Tyler's. So people really underestimate those two receivers in San Francisco. Those two guys are very good. One of them helped me get to the fantasy playoffs when I'm losing my first round pick like in our league, we all did. They're very good, and I'm not really thrilled that they're both super young. We have to play them forever. So Ayuk is a very special individual. So you get anybody. Trey Lance would be crazy because Ayuk is such a wildcat kind of guy too, that he could do a lot of like running and catching, and you get Trey Lance, somebody that can run with him. Like all the options that Shanahan does in that running game that lets that running game open up, that you're talking like Baltimore and Lamar Jackson with a guy who could throw the ball. Now, I will say, I'll get into it a little bit. I saw terrible advanced numbers on Trey Lance. Like he grades terrible because of like his window throwing accuracy is horrible. Basically, he's throwing to like guys that compared to most teams are just wide open. That's hard to say. It's hard to like compare divisions, especially like a subdivision versus to that. So they did say that in the grading. They're like, yes, he was playing down here, but he did make the throw he had to make. So we can't really, we're knocking him from completing a ball, but there's no way there. So long story short, it's not good. And I think the person will play over Jimmy. And if they don't like it, they don't like it. They just they bench him again and then let Jimmy play and go to the playoffs either way.
With the San Francisco wide receiver, you were talking about River Craycraft, right?
Is he on their team anymore?
He is.
Oh, wow.
I thought he was gone.
Nope, still there.
Also,
okay. River
the big
Craycraft.
thing that we also need to talk about is that Arizona's the only team with first-round picks after this year. Like, what the fuck? Like, are they going to?
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah,
NFC West is everybody in the NFC West is like, we don't care about first-round picks.
Well, but I mean, look at it, Kevin. Yeah. Every team in the NFC West is ready. Like, they have their needs.
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. Like,
other than like, they got their coaches, they got their quarterbacks, they've got teams around them, and they're just like, let's do the thing. In Seattle, you better like figure out this coach quarterback situation because the rest of the division's telling you like we're coming full steam ahead. And you're sitting here like the Suarez channel and like going all sideways and stuff. That was a topical joke right there. What's up? What's up? Yeah.
All right.
Hey, it got undone today.
There you go. Hopefully the Seahawks do too.
All right. Well, we have gone a little bit over. So if you've listened this long, congratulations. But gentlemen, let us know what you think. People out there, let us know what you think on Twitter about the trade for San Francisco, some of the Seahawks free agency moves, who's still out there. Go ahead and tweet at us. I'm at _Matt. Sean's at _Betty. Kev's at Kev Believe the first name believes we in a 3. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you think. Follow our page on the Eli Network. Gentlemen, we will talk more, I'm sure, about some free agents move next week. And
baseball.
We'll talk about some real baseball as well.
Real baseball.
Draft is approaching as well. So Sounders are starting up. So we'll have a lot to talk about. And maybe Gonzaga will be in the Final Four. So
that'd be cool.
Next time, we will see you on Washington, East to West Sports.
Thumbnail.